get started.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome back to Sin City Crypto. My name is David. I'll be one of your co-hosts. We have a very special show for you today. We're going to talk about a lot of things, including President Joe Biden is now a Bitcoin maximalist. I'm sure you've seen the photo, but what does it truly mean? Also, we have, it's Forrest Friday, so we have Forrest joining us, and we have a very special guest, James Seyffart from Bloomberg, the ETF specialist we had on here just about a month and a half ago. Will be joining us again. Talk about Grayscale, Bitcoin ETF, and the new flurry of Ethereum ETFs. We're also going to talk about Cardano and much, much more. But first, here is Robin.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If it's your first time checking us out, we are an entertainment-focused cryptocurrency channel where we take old, boring, and stale information and, well, we package it up in a fun and sexy way. And is Bitcoin under 30,000 still?
No, but speaking of 1,000, and that is notated by a K, today's stream is in 4K, brought to you by channel sponsor, Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you own a business and you are looking to maximize your networking and your cybersecurity, there's one company to call, and that is Cam's Blue Wire Tech. If you want the gold level customer service, you got issues, they'll walk you through all of it. Visit bluewiretech.com or click the link in the description of this video. Now, I do want to bring in our third co-host of the day, Forrest, how you doing? Notice what I did there?
Good, man.
I don't even notice what I did there. But how you doing, man? Long time. I feel like we haven't seen you in a while. It's only been like a week, but we miss you, man. How you been?
A week. I've been doing well, just hanging in there, trading the market a little bit. Yeah.
Forrest, I'm just going to flat out come out and ask you because I want to know your take. What's your thoughts on this whole Richard Hart Hex things going on?
Look, I mean, I've never been a fan of the investments. I don't think Hex itself should be considered a security because it's just a smart contract. But I do think it's kind of like a Ponzi scheme, and I think the way it was sold and presented was very dishonest. I've never been a big fan of the Richard Hart style or him in general. But I will say he is intelligent. He is. You can't deny that he is a pretty intelligent person. Whether he uses that intelligence for personal gain, good or evil, whatever, is another story. But yeah, not a fan. I've never been into Hex, never been into Pulse Chain. I think those assets are both performing horrendously, and it's really no surprise that the SEC is going after them. Again, though, I want to reiterate, I don't believe Pulse Chain or Hex are securities. I'm not a securities expert, but I believe the way that they were presented and sold was very dishonest.
Yeah, I think you kind of spelled out what we've been saying on this channel, which a lot of people can't see through. Just take the words. Like we're not saying the actual token Hex is a security or that we agree with the SEC going after them for being a security. But the other things, as far as what Richard Hart did and how it was manipulated and how there was a lot of misdirection, I think that's what we all have an issue with. Now, what I don't have an issue with is funny videos. And well, I have one for you. Rocco. So here we have a picture of two men. And well, I'm going to play it. I'm going to pause it. I'm going to ask you guys what you think. So they're trying to throw the lady in there. What do you guys think is going to happen here?
All three fall in.
All three fall in. Forrest, you got a guess?
I think she's going to get away and the dudes are going to go in.
Let's see who's right. Man, that's some ninja moves right there, bro. Speaking of ninja,
I feel like that's me trying to throw my dog in the bathtub. It's like somehow I end up in there and the dog's downstairs again. I'm like,
the dog ends up giving Robin a bath. Now, Speaking of ninjas, there might have been a ninja in the Joe Biden. Okay, so this has been blowing up on crypto Twitter. This is Joe Biden. This is from his Twitter account. No, it's not Photoshop. This is him.
This is from his account. The 32 million
followers, guys.
Yeah.
I like my coffee dark.
And he likes his, look at that. Laser eyes. Now, I got a very important question. Is this someone on his staff? Because we know that Joe Biden didn't like, okay, do you think someone's trolling us from his staff?
Like
or?
maybe he thinks laser eyes means like LASIK, you know? He's like 2024, I'm gonna get some better vision. It's coming. So, I'm just saying that, like, I don't think he maybe understands. But here's the thing. All joking aside, he's got 2024 written on the cup, right?
Yeah.
Which is election year?
Election year.
And well, what's the big topic everyone that is running against Joe Biden is discussing? Bitcoin. Laser eyes, 2024, election year.
Are you trying to say Joe Biden's all of a sudden now a Bitcoin maxi?
Well, here's the thing. If your direct competitor, the Robert F. Kennedy, he's running for the Democratic seat. If he is promoting Bitcoin, went to Bitcoin Miami, has been talking about it in press conferences. DeSantis is talking about it. I mean, who is it, right? Except for Trump and Biden, that's it. And so now the heat is on, bro. We've been talking about this over and over again, is the fact that this election is going to be the Bitcoin election, right? I don't want to say that's going to be the only pressing issue. However, it is going to be a topic that is going to be discussed by every single candidate. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, regulation. I'm sure the subject matter on it being used for nefarious activities, for drugs and money laundering, that of course is going to come up. But the thing is in previous presidential elections, crypto was not even a question. It never was. Yeah. But it will be addressed in the next election. And, well, we know where the candidates that are running against Joe Biden, where they stand, and they're pro-crypto. And so he's got laser eye cups, bro. I'm telling you, man.
I think someone from his office is clowning us. What do you think, Forrest?
No, it's his campaign. His campaign is like, yo, you need to talk about this.
Someone's Forrest, what do you think?
First, like on the laser eye things, I do think I think this is, you're gonna call me a conspiracy theorist. People are gonna say I've got the tinfoil hat on, but BlackRock files for a Bitcoin ETF. BlackRock has their fingers everywhere. They're everywhere.
Not just fingers. I can say hands and feet as well.
And yeah, I think. Oh, the government's all of a sudden bullish on Bitcoin. You start to see, like, as soon as this Bitcoin ETF, it's just like you're going to see Bitcoin politicized increasingly. So I do think everyone's getting caught up on this like laser eyes thing, but not. I haven't heard anyone call out how bizarre the entire video and the context of the video is in general. I'm just thoroughly confused to have a United States president drinking out of a mug with his picture on it, slamming it down and saying, I like my coffee dark. Like, I've never ordered my coffee dark. I've never heard of that as like a term that you order. Like, how do you like your coffee? No one in the history ever has just said dark. Right? You drink your coffee black or with cream or with sugar. Like, I like my car. That's why is he filming a video of him drinking coffee saying he likes his coffee dark? It's so weird. It's bizarre.
I'll say it sounds
I'm really
like
not sure what
maybe they're trying to wake him up before an interview.
I've seen this before in some of those like sci-fi movies. Okay, so check it out. So they download AI to all the computers, and then when there's a trigger word that'll like start the process to like take over the world. And the trigger word is the one word nobody would ever expect.
Dark.
If the president says he likes his coffee dark, initiate protocol alpha.
Seriously, it's weird.
I'm just saying.
It's weird.
He put his cup down. He's like, I want my coffee dark. All of a sudden, orbs are out here scanning your eyeballs. ChatGPT's taking over, man.
I think he wanted to say I like my coffee black, but he was scared that he might get backlash for saying that. So I'm not. You're laughing. I'm not kidding. I'm being serious, bro. So either way,
I'm telling you, there's more to it. We will revisit this. I'm telling you, it is one of his staffers trolling us, bro. That's what it is. No, I'm telling you, man, this dude, okay. Do you think, here's my question to you guys. Do you think Joe Biden will discuss Bitcoin and it will be one of his topics for campaigning? Do you think
not his own will? No, he will when he's asked about it, but it's not going to be one of his talking points.
This is what this is. This is a
and you got to remember, Robin, he's not going to be doing any debates. They've already said he's not doing any debates.
Okay, but he's gonna still make speeches. He's gonna go out. He's gonna go out and campaign. He's gonna get in front of a podium. He's going to talk. Yes. You don't think he's gonna campaign? Now, whether or not he does debates or not, presidential candidates always campaign. They'll campaign all the way through the night at all the battleground states. Hold on.
That is elderly abuse.
You don't think you're telling me that the presidential candidate is not going to go out and campaign?
I mean, he barely campaiged in 2020.
Come on, man.
I'm just saying, it's not going to be a talking point he's going to bring up. It's someone's going to ask him about it. Then he's going to.
No, this is what the cup signifies. The cup signifies a coming of marketing towards or a stance on Bitcoin. That's why he's got the laser eyes.
I want to know what the chat thinks. Are you guys with me? You think this is just a ploy, or you think he's actually warming up to Bitcoin? Put a 1 if you think it's BS. Put a 2 if you think he's actually warming up to Bitcoin. We don't want to know what you think. Before we move on, I'd like to throw it over to Robin to go ahead and butcher some names and yell at some people. Robin?
Butcher some names and yell at people. All right. If you are new here, say hello so we can drop an hola back at you. I don't see too many new people, but we do have Marius, Woods Galore, and then also Armpit, and anyways, to all of you, hola! Welcome to Sin City Crypto.
What kind of names you guys got? All right.
And also hit the like button, guys. We are lacking on the like button, so do us a favor.
Lacking. Don't make us give you a shellacking.
We will. Thank you. We will be bringing you. We will open up the club at 180 likes. So do us a favor, hit the like button. We're at 50. We only got like 35% like ratio. That's
unacceptable.
Not good. So.
Now, before we get into the markets, I do want to give a shout out to second channel sponsor, I Trust Capital, the leading crypto IRA company in our space. If you plan on hodling your Bitcoin, crypto, XRP, Ethereum, and you want to enjoy those gains tax-free in retirement, there is one company you should go with, and that company is I Trust Capital. If you use the link in the description of this video, not only will you be supporting the channel, but you'll be supporting yourself, as you'll get $100 once you fund your account. With that being said, I want to start with this tweet, and then we're going to look at the markets, and then we're going to look at some charts. But before I look at anything, I'm looking at the chat, and I'm seeing money. So, Ultimo Maya, $2 super chat. It's all BS to get extra votes. Potentially, my friend, potentially. But what does that say? What does that say? If that is true, it's all BS to get extra votes. We've won, guys. We're here. We ain't going nowhere. All right. Speaking of something that's not going anywhere, and that is Bitcoin's volume. Just then, Bitcoin volume reaches the lowest level in over 3 years. These bands have been tighter than a lot of tight things in life, and well, they're not expanding yet, but we do know.
Tight is your sense of humor. There you go.
There's only so far back you can pull the slingshot, right? And so that thing's been being pulled back for weeks now. And once we let go, we're going to the moon, or we're going to
Stop it with the analogies, bro. They're so bad.
Are we going to Mars?
Stop it. Just
let me say my thing.
To the chart, man. Good God.
I'm going nowhere.
Man.
Rocco, shut up. Anyways, Forrest, volume reaches lowest level. From your experience as a trader, when we see, like, I don't want to say all-time low volume, but 3-year low is a pretty big deal. What are you expecting moving forward over the next 2-3 weeks, 2-3 months? And then if you want to pull up a Bitcoin chart as you speak over it, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull my chart up here. Okay, yeah. So pretty much we've been saying this Bitcoin for this entire consolidation phase underneath 31K. I feel like I've said this on this channel a million times, but just in case anybody who hasn't been tuning in, they can now be aware of it. This 31K level is such big resistance because you can no longer go long on 2x leverage while maintaining the liquidation point below this swing low. That manifests as resistance, right? But we are in an uptrend. We are making higher lows into not necessarily technically higher highs, but basically resistance at 31K. Basically, we're winding up. We're winding up here for a big move, and I believe that big move, and this, which is kind of correlated with this decrease in volume that we're seeing, will be almost solely based on the Bitcoin ETF approval or denial. Obviously this this pattern, this ascending triangle, which is normally a bullish pattern, comes to a terminus or a terminal point mid to late September. I believe we're having an ETF expert on later, so I don't want to speak now and end up looking like an idiot if I get the dates wrong, but I believe that could be approved sometime in September. Again, we'll find more details about that later. But put it this way, I know a lot of people, and I know people who trade regularly, who are good traders, good investors, have been in the space. If we get a Bitcoin ETF, and I'm one of these people, if we get a Bitcoin ETF, it's get all your money in the market. Not financial advice, but the people that are like, that I trust and respect in this space. Basically, Bitcoin ETF approval. We get Bitcoin above 32K, taking out this prior high. It's like it's going to rip. We have a huge amount of space to take up. We could see Bitcoin rip up initially, probably just to 36K, but 42 to 50K is certainly on the table if a Bitcoin ETF is approved and we break through 32K. Even in the absence, I just look at the Bitcoin ETF as the catalyst to break us through 32K. Just from a technical standpoint, I know a lot of analysts and traders who are on the same page as me here, that we recover this range. You look to rotate up to the top of the range or to the midpoint, right? And if we just kind of draw our midpoint here, you're going to see that midpoint is coming in around $47,000, which was our prior resistance here. So a rotation back up to the midpoint, off of a push up into this prior range, to me is the base case if we start moving up into this. So initially we want to look for 36K. We break through 36K. We get a Bitcoin ETF approval. I'm looking a lot higher than I think a lot of other people are looking. Looking to like 47 to 50K, and I think it's quite possible. I've heard, and I'm interested to kind of quiz the ETF expert on this in a little bit, but I've heard as much as like 20 billion in inflows expected into the Bitcoin spot ETF if it's approved. $20 billion is a lot. Will move the market a ton, and that's just inflows into the Bitcoin spot ETF. That doesn't, and I could be wrong about this. I want to ask him. I've just heard the number expecting 20 billion in inflows into the Bitcoin spot ETF. I don't know what the time frame would be for that, but that's just not even accounting for the additional money that'll come in based off of speculating off the positive news of the Bitcoin ETF.
Just outside that,
it could rip.
Outside that ecosystem, because if the way I look at it is for every billion that pours in through the ETF, how much is pouring in just off of the euphoria from traditional crypto markets like the exchanges,
retail investors.
And then I know that the last time he was on, he was saying the bullish scenario would be 1 billion in 24 hours. And so if that's on the table,
well, what if we get all 9 approved at the same time? What does that look like? For me, what I'm curious, and I'm excited to have James on, is, a lot of people are like, okay, ETF gets approved. What happens? And so I would love for him to explain, all right, ETF gets approved. What happens? Does it mean the price goes up right away? Does it mean they start buying right away? And so those are the questions I'm going to ask on behalf of the community, because I know a lot of people have been asking me, even off Twitter, off our channel. And I'm curious myself as well. Just that process, okay, it gets approved. Now, I do want to take a look.
Real quick, let me just give a shout out. We had Ninja throw a 99-cent super sticker. It was a big shout out to you. Also, Kadina Miner, has signed up for the Center Level 1 community. So, a new member. So,
welcome.
Thanks. Welcome to the club. And then also, if you are new here, say hello. So, jumping a whole lot back at you. We got Christopher K, Jav with JAV, Nabil, Papa Elf, and to all of you, hola! Welcome to Sin City Crypto.
Did you say Jav, J-A-B? That's Jav.
V.
Oh,
V.
I thought you said B, my bad.
Thank you. And now, still 50% like ratio. We're getting better. 180 will open up this damn club. Let's do the damn thing. Let's do it.
Now, I do want to go over some of the alts here. The Richard Hart ecosystem is in the green again, as Hex and Pulse are up 6.6 and 8% respectively. We have Frax shares. Curve is up. Curve, I don't think we're out of the woods yet on that one. The founder of Curve had a lot of Curve tokens put up as collateral for a loan that he was about to get margin called on, and he was able to offload some of that over the counter to not affect the price of the token. Not sure how I feel about that, as people like Justin Sun came in and kind of bailed the guy out. Compound down 5.1%. Litecoin down 4.5%. We do know Litecoin just had its halving. But guys, you got to remember, that's a net negative for miners, right? Unless the price goes up by 2x, they're losing money, right? They're getting half of the rewards at the same price.
Well, the premise with the halving being so bullish for Bitcoin is that there's always a demand from the exchanges to buy it, right?
Correct. And the supply.
Yeah, but if the thing is, if people aren't buying if there isn't a large demand for it, the exchanges aren't going to go out and press the miners, right? And so if you're looking at your order books, you're like, man, you know what? We need more Bitcoin. They're going to go to the miners. If you're looking at the order books on Litecoin, you're like, man, this thing isn't moving. We got a lot of Litecoin in the back. If you're not, you know, it's
a lot of Litecoin in the back.
You know, like it's a storage unit.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, then the miners really just lose out because, you know, if it doesn't cause a supply shock, then at that point you're just mining with half the reward with the price being the same. So.
Forrest, are there any alts that you know you've been looking at as maybe like a trade setup or even something that is at a key level that you're either looking to accumulate or sell?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of a Shiba Inu trade, and yeah, I can share my screen on that a little bit. And really, it's not because I'm a big fan of Shiba Inu or meme coins in general. It's just the chart looked really, really good, and I did some digging and come to find out Shiba Inu is launching a layer 2. So yeah, like Optimism, Arbitrum, Base, Polygon, they are launching a layer 2 on August 15th to 16th. There we got a loud car going by. So that catalyst for Shiba Inu is 12 days away, and we're starting to see higher lows, higher highs coming in, kind of winding up in this ascending triangle pattern that we've kind of broken out of. We have our green level, that is our 2x long margin, or I'm sorry, our 3x long margin pressure level. That's where as soon as price dips down below that, you can start going long again on 3x leverage and hide a liquidation point below this swing low. That was down towards 544. There's a bunch of zeros and then 544. And yeah, price action has, if we zoom out to the daily, and this is enough to you see this on a chart, and it should get your senses tingling, so to speak. Like this long downtrend level being broken after around 600 days of bleeding out, with essentially coming in here and starting to find demand and support around this previous support level. Shiba Inu is looking constructive. It's looking good as a clear catalyst. I don't necessarily think it's something that you want to buy and hold for a long period of time. But as a trade, I'm personally long. I'm trading it. Bought on this 2x long margin pressure level, that green level. I'm sorry, 3x long margin pressure level. So yeah, this is starting to break out and upwards. It's taking out this prior trend line here. So from our two lows, right? Our two lows, we extend a trend line. It's taking that out as well. So it's basically price action is getting through all of the trend line resistance. It's holding the support. It's got a clear catalyst coming through. I'm personally targeting, I'll throw on our long margin pressure levels here. Let's go here and get this on this bottom wick. There we go. I'm personally targeting around 1086 or potentially higher, and we're just looking for a run from this 2x long, our 3x long margin pressure level up to our 2x long, hopefully before the catalyst of the Shibarium layer 2 launch. Also, the ecosystem token Bone, which is Shiba Swap, which is now a top 100 cryptocurrency by market cap, is going to be used as the gas for this layer 2 ecosystem. So much like OP tokens are used as the gas for optimism, you're going to have Bone used as the ecosystem gas token for the Shiba Inu layer 2. That's currently sitting at a fully diluted valuation of roughly $415 million, which is high. But when you start looking at the categories here and we go into layer 2s, which I don't believe this is even included in that layer 2 category yet because it's still developing. You look at $400 million valuation. Well, if this ends up being a large layer 2 that's heavily used, and I could see it being heavily used for meme coins, which have had a strong narrative recently, your fully diluted valuation for Immutable X is 1.5 billion. For then you get a huge jump, and we'll just kind of there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layer 2s that are over $1 billion fully diluted valuation, and Bone being the gas token for that could be an interesting play. We'll see. It's already at a 400 million valuation, so maybe it's overvalued, but it really just depends on the success of their layer 2. Which is launching in about 2 weeks. So I think the easier play is probably just the Shiba Inu token, which I believe will be used for governance, but we'll see. It's got a pretty constructive chart. We've recovered the range, clear catalyst, hopefully with a nice 20-30% pump here. But obviously there's risk involved. And full disclosure, I am long on this trade.
Awesome. Forrest, what about, we haven't taken a look at Ethereum. I know you just got out of your chart there. Can we take a look at Ethereum? Where are we seeing some resistance and support, and are we at any key levels?
I'm surprised Ethereum hasn't had a big rally on this, on the news of the ETH futures.
Yeah, I actually think, and it'll be another good thing to talk to our guy from Bloomberg, I believe James is his name, about this ETH futures ETF potential. But 1824 is where your support's coming in. That's your 4x long margin pressure level off of this swing low. And I believe if we move these over to our most recent swing low, I think we get another level roughly highlighted around 1817 or so, maybe a little bit lower than that. So you just have strong support, roughly around 1800 to 1825 coming in here. And otherwise, we've just been ranging between there and 2K. That was, kind of our resistance levels, slight deviation above it, but price action for ETH sitting very flat, has not exited this range for the last 43 days. I will say if you compare it to Bitcoin kind of had this this range up here and then has since dropped and is ranging kind of below its prior range, where Ethereum's had this kind of slow bleed out towards the bottom of its range. Not saying one's holding up better than the other. I think if you look at ETH Bitcoin, it's been relatively flat. So yeah, will definitely be interesting to see how these ETF approvals, depending on what comes first, how they affect the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio, and how they affect ETH in general. But we've spent a ton of time in this range now, strong support at 1800 for shorter term trades. And just in general, we can throw on our easy bands here. We've got our 21-week simple moving average coming up for ETH, which Bitcoin is still above its 21-week simple moving average, and it's held its 21-week SMA both times it's touched, whereas ETH usually, or in the last 2 times, has dipped below and then recovered. We're kind of dipping below right now on ETH, and we're not quite there yet on Bitcoin. So we could potentially be nearing a local bottom for both. Wouldn't be surprised. It really, in my opinion, the future of Bitcoin and Ethereum price action for the next couple months, in my opinion, heavily will be dictated it heavily depends on the ETF approvals.
Awesome. Well, speaking of ETF, that's actually the perfect segue, as we have our favorite ETF analyst, James Seyffart from Bloomberg, joining us for the second time. Rocco, let's patch him in. James, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming back. You have been everywhere, my friend. I know you're super busy. On behalf of the entire crypto community, not just our community, we want to thank you for continuing to provide knowledge and give some clarity around these ETFs. A lot of people have no idea what an ETF is, the importance and value. So we know your time is valuable. We appreciate you not just coming on our show, but kind of educating the masses there. So we thank you for that. I know you've been super, super busy. I follow you on Twitter, which, by the way, if you're not following James on Twitter, do yourselves a favor. We'll drop it in the chat here so you can go follow him. but it was like tweet after tweet. Now we have 7. Now we have 8. Now we're up to 11.
Yeah.
What's that flurry been like on the ETH futures? I know you've spoken on previous podcasts about how Gary Gensler's tone has changed. It was only a few months ago where he was like, nope. What has changed? What is it looking like? And what are your thoughts on ETH futures and if it gets approved or not?
Yeah, so we came out with a note today that basically we said that we gave it about a 75% chance that the ETH futures are going to get launched. So to put that in perspective, that's like that is the exact percentage we gave Bitcoin futures ETFs in September of 2021, and they ultimately launched in October of 2021. So we're fairly confident. And again, that's basically a 180-degree turn on my view. And in my opinion, it's a 180-degree turn from Gensler and the SEC. Basically, a lot of the way this works is like the 19B4 process where we use for the spot Bitcoin ETF proposals. It's a very formal process. You submit an application and they have a certain deadline where they have to reply, and they go back and forth delay. Maybe you can add more stuff. It's very formal. It's all public. We can see both sides of it. This new rule, it's called the ETF rule. It goes by 6C11, just other nerdy numbers and letters that they throw in here to name these things. But essentially, it made it way easier for ETF issuers to launch ETFs. And it's only for 1940 Act products. So these futures ETFs, these ETH futures ETFs are filed under the 1940 Act. So they go through this new process. And the way this process usually works is you submit your applications and there's a clock that starts at 75 days. And after 75 days, you go effective and you can typically launch the day after that, right? So that's just, for a normal ETF, that's the way it's going to work. For these ETH futures ETFs, it should be the same. But again, what they do in this process is usually the SEC, if they don't like it, rather than having to issue a formal denial letter, like the SEC will just reach out like on the back channel. Like imagine like getting a call from the SEC and be like, hey guys, just withdraw that. Like not happening. Like we're not even going to look at them, withdraw them. Theoretically, that's the way it works 99.9% of the time if they're going to deny something in this new process. But it looks that technically, legally speaking, they can't really do that. They'd have to actually issue some sort of like letter, cease and desist type letter. I don't know exactly what the legal wording is, but it would basically be like, this is a formal statement saying you cannot launch this product, which they didn't do for the 2x Bitcoin futures product. Right. So that the person that got that through is the same person that filed for this first Ethereum futures ETF. So we're wondering if maybe like the SEC knows there is no legal recourse for them to deny these potentially, or is it just like this overall shift of like, all right, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're over on this other pedestal, this other tier, this other side of the room. Now we're going to focus on everything else and like really go after that as securities because it's not going to be worth us to fight. Like if we can't even win 100% against Ripple, like right. I don't like if you look at like, is it a security on a spectrum? Like Ethereum and Ripple are like, Ethereum is way less a security than Ripple in my view.
That's interesting because Gary Gensler still refuses to say Ethereum's a commodity. But I do want to share, James, your tweet you put out there. And by the way, guys, I mentioned this, but if you want to follow James at JSEYFF. So this is the current list of filers, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we saw more today. We're looking at 12. A majority of them filed on the 1st, and a lot of these have dates October 16th. And I want to ask you, and we're going to talk about the Bitcoin ETF as well, but I want to ask you, James, I said on the show yesterday when we talked about these ETFs, and my theory was that they would wait to see what happens with Grayscale. And please correct me if I'm wrong because you're the expert here. My thinking was if they lose against Grayscale, and Grayscale's argument is you approve futures, you got to approve a spot, it's the same thing. Is the SEC going to be tying their hands if they approve an ETH futures prior to that decision, knowing that if they approve a futures ETH ETF and Grayscale wins, would that mean now that it would automatically have to approve an Ethereum spot ETF in the future?
Yeah, so ultimately that is correct. It's just a matter of how long that time frame is between the approval and the filing and the approval, right? Like there's plenty of other ways that the SEC can delay this process if that does happen. The other aspect of what you said is, I was kind of hinted at before, that same argument can be made. You approve Bitcoin futures ETFs, but you're not approving spot Bitcoin. That's not okay. You can make the same argument that you're approving Bitcoin futures ETFs and you're not approving Ethereum futures and fact-based, like there is no difference there. So the only way around that would be like if the SEC comes out with some sort of suit or or anything that basically accuses Ethereum of being a security. And then they could say, well, we're in litigation over this. We think it's a security. And then they wouldn't have to approve anything. But I agree with you. I think if Grayscale wins this case, which again, I said this last time on your show, it's not a guarantee that we get a spot Bitcoin ETF. It certainly makes it more probable, but it's not a guarantee. I think if Grayscale loses, I think then the hopes of getting a spot Bitcoin ETF kind of really dwindle a bit there. But if they get approved, they certainly improve. But I think the SEC, obviously, they don't have to do anything here, right? All that happened here is the SEC basically said, the Wall Street Journal reported this, Blockworks reported this. There's a few other people that reported this. They basically went to these issuers and said, we're open to reviewing these filings now. In May, there was 5 filings, and they were all withdrawn within a week or two. Like all of them, the SEC was like, no, get these out of here. And they're not doing this. They actually went out and basically said, if you guys want to apply, we're open to reviewing them, which again sounds like very soft language, like we're open to reviewing them. But like if the SEC saying that, it's pretty strong, because that's kind of the same language that Gary used in August of 2021 that also led us to believe that the Bitcoin futures ETFs were going to launch.
And also lately on interviews, Gary Gensler's, has been referring to his other 4 commissioners. Yeah. And a lot of people are saying, hey, like, if it does get approved, he doesn't want to be the guy that like, hey, I had to walk back on what I said. It wasn't me. It was my colleagues.
I want to bring up something interesting though. Every time we've seen any like big institutions or traditional finance get exposure to crypto or offer any kind of like crypto services, if they offer anything outside of Bitcoin, they usually lump in Ethereum followed by Litecoin, right? And then sometimes Bitcoin Cash. And so I'm getting this feeling. I'm like, if we're getting ETF possibilities, or at least the futures on Bitcoin, Ethereum, I feel like it's only due time before Litecoin sneaks its way in there. I mean, because it's been around for quite some time. You can make an argument that it is decentralized, even more so than Ethereum is, if you give them the proof of stake. So I don't know, man. I feel like this is opening the floodgates, and I don't think the likes of some of the newer layer 1 cryptos are gonna get in there, but I can see Litecoin for sure, maybe even Bitcoin Cash sneaking into an ETF.
Terrible.
I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, my personal preferences aside, I don't think that's bad logic. Obviously, Gensler says multiple times there are ones that we believe are not securities, and the only one that he will name is Bitcoin, but he says there are others. So who knows what they are? Maybe they are Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash. My personal view on that is there are those ETFs elsewhere in the world, and they don't have much interest. I don't see a lot of interest coming for them. ETFs in the US. So even if an issuer does launch them, I don't see them being like huge smashing successes unless something drastically changes relation to those assets. The other thing is like Ethereum futures ETFs, we don't think they're going to be smash hits or anything. Like it's not going to be like the Bitcoin futures ETF. It probably won't be as successful. And even still, the Bitcoin futures ETFs they have less in assets now than when they launched. A lot of that is because Bitcoin has collapsed in half. But people, like for the most part in the ETF world, it's a lot. Most of the people that hold them are advisors. They are used as trading vehicles by institutions. That's what, for specifically these futures ETFs, they might not be the greatest thing for long-term holding due to the roll cost potential and like rolling futures. But like as far as trading goes, they are going to mimic the value of the underlying asset, right? So like if you're looking for exposure over a time frame of days, weeks, months, it's probably going to be pretty good. Over longer years, you can see some degradation there. So advisors who are looking to allocate to the space, they really want to see spot. So for that reason, we just don't think the ETH futures ETFs aren't really even going to see that same sort of demand that you know for some of those other coins. So it'd be up to the issuers if they want to try to go down that route. I always thought it would be Bitcoin, then ETH, and then I have no idea. Like that's been my theory for a while. I honestly thought we'd have already had Ethereum futures ETFs, but obviously since Gensler took over, he basically decided like, no, we're not done on ETH yet. But that looks to be like they might have taken a 180-degree turn. If we see these things launch, if we get 2 to 3 weeks from here and they haven't been withdrawn, especially if Grayscale wins, then the odds might go up even higher in our view. But we're taking in new information as it comes and trying to adjust. It's all qualitative, not quantitative. Just like trying to figure out if these were the odds, would you still consider betting on both sides? Is really what it comes down to.
That makes sense. Forrest, do you have any question about the ETH futures before we move on to talk about some of the Bitcoin?
Just general question would be like, what are the expected dates for ETH futures and Bitcoin spot ETF potential approvals? I know like it might not be ironed out, and they potentially have a long time where they could just ignore it. But are there any specific dates that you have in mind as like key dates to be paying attention to for either?
Yeah. So there are two main things I would want. First thing I would say is that there's actually a new filer in the spot Bitcoin race today. Global X, who has filed in the past, refiled another one of those 19B4s today to launch a Bitcoin ETF. So now we're up to 9 active filings and 10 if you include Grayscale, which we do because they're active in a way because they're basically filing to vacate the denial letter under that same process in that lawsuit. So as far as timelines go, the most important one, like, so we have one coming up with ARC21 shares, 8/13. August 13th is the deadline the SEC has to respond by. We are very confident they're just going to delay there. There's no reason for them to rush to issue a response. They get an answer from the courts on the Grayscale case. So the real first date we're watching, because they can keep delaying for as long as they want, is we're looking for the Grayscale decision, right? So that opinion is going to drop, and then there will be about a 45-day period where the SEC can decide or not decide to file for an appeal. It's something called an en banc hearing or en banc hearing. And really what it is like typically the way the DC Court of Appeals works is it's a 3-judge panel. There's a bunch of other judges that are in this court. And the appeal would be like, all right, these 3 judges decided this, and the SEC saying, we want all the judges to weigh in. So rather than a 3-judge panel, it'd be however many judges on that panel deciding, like re-looking at the merits of the case. And the courts technically don't have to just grant that. It's just they would have to apply for it. They could also appeal to the Supreme Court, which we don't see that happening. One, this isn't something a case that the Supreme Court would take specifically, and also even if they would, I'm sure the SEC knows that they're unlikely to win based on the current makeup of the Supreme Court. And this is all on information. I work with a litigation analyst at Bloomberg, who's a lawyer, was a lawyer in his former life, still technically is, I guess. And so he's the one that gives me all the information on like how all of this works. So basically, once we get an opinion on the Grayscale court case, there's like a 45-day period where the SEC could appeal. And then after that, there's going to,
sorry,
we don't
to cut
know.
you off, James. When was that opinion?
No, that's so essentially the way this works, right, is like there is no set timeline. It's not like the deadlines in the 19B4 process. It's just whenever the court gets around to it and it submits that opinion. So one thing to like give you two, we have an opinion from a case that was argued in May of this year that dropped last week or earlier this week. So that's like only a couple months. The Grayscale case was argued on March 7th. We also have a court case that we also looked at very closely is CBOE sued the SEC under the same grounds that the Grayscale is. CBOE won that lawsuit, but that was argued in October of 2022. So that means it was like a 9-month process before it got approved. So if we follow that same timeline, then we're not getting a Grayscale decision till December. Now, that long of a timeline is pretty unlikely and not standard. It's more likely to be sometime before September 30th. The litigation analyst I was talking to, he was betting on very late Q2 or sometime in Q3. So that would give us through the end of September 30th. Some people are trying to predict like middle of August. I'm estimating middle of August, but like really it's complete guessing. So once we get that decision, it'll be 45 days after that. And then also we have to see what the decision actually says, right? It's going to be a court opinion. It's going to be a few pages long explaining why they came to this and what the next steps are. So we'll see how strong the language is, if they give the SEC a deadline to issue a response. And my base case at this point, it's not a base case just because there's so many variables that could happen, but like what I think most likely in all of this is they will then possibly approve everything all at once if Grayscale does win.
Interesting. And I know you recently, you and your colleague, Eric Balchunas, you guys went from 50 to 65%. And I know you've spoken that the Grayscale lawsuit, right, the potential of them winning is what drove that percentage up for you. And I know you brought up the fact that you have legal colleagues you speak with at Bloomberg. Are there any insight you can give us? Maybe any information that might not be out there publicly? And I'm not trying to get you in trouble here, but anything that kind of moved the needle for you? Anything specific? Is it general? Is it Gary Gensler's language he's been using? What is it?
Yeah, so you talk about the 1 in 5 commissioners thing. I literally put that in my note earlier this week as part of the reason why. He said it twice, very shaky, like he never talks like that. He specifically used the words he's not going to prejudge multiple times, which is Jake Cherinsky at the Coin or something
Blockchain
Policy
Association.
Institute. Yeah, Blockchain Association, that's it. He submitted that letter that basically said that he should recuse himself because he's already prejudged these. So now he's being careful with the words he's saying. He's saying he's only one of 5 commissioners, which you hinted at. So that was part of it, right? Obviously, we've never seen that from him. It's always like, we believe, the SEC believes, blah, blah, blah. Now he's saying one of 5 commissioners. So one of like my tinfoil hat theories is maybe one of these other Democratic commissioners are getting like cold feet a bit on the way that they're handling this. We're like, we're losing all these court cases. We need to like figure out something else, right? So the other part of it was the Brian Armstrong quote in the Financial Times. Now it has been disputed since I wrote about it, but
Yeah.
essentially he said that what the SEC told him was delist every single asset on your platform except for Bitcoin. That's the only one we don't have a problem with. And one of the things we've been getting from like people when I say that we were at 50-50 was like, they're never going to let a surveillance sharing agreement, which is Coinbase, be the person that they're partnered with when they're suing them in open court. And I'm like, the SEC doesn't have a problem with the Bitcoin stuff. They have a problem with everything else, but not the Bitcoin stuff. And people are like, well, you don't know that, like all this other stuff. And then we see that quote from Ryan Armstrong. I was like, okay, this is just a little more confirmation. Now, again, that has been disputed from the SEC and other things, but who knows what's right and what isn't, but that was another aspect of it. And then there's also been some like just other rumblings hearing from issuers and other people in the space that aren't, there was nothing like concrete or smoking gun about it, but there's just a lot of moving parts. We basically are, yeah, I often post that the Charlie meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's like trying to put everything together. Like that's really what it is, because like all the hard evidence basically says the SEC has said they won't do anything. And then until these Ethereum filings, the SEC telling them they're open to filing, that was the first like real hard evidence. We're like, all right, we are actually on the right track. Something is changing at the SEC.
I want to hear your insight on the Biden laser eyes. So, you know, it seems like we're having a shift in the top-down government kind of how they're looking at.
They're trolling us, dude.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this is a upcoming campaign. I think that Biden's going to take a positive stance on Bitcoin. I don't know. I think it has 2024. It's an election year. I'm just throwing it out there, man. I think he's going to campaign on Bitcoin.
I mean,
man.
when I saw that tweet from Biden, it was like the first thing I thought, I was like, what is going on? And then I looked at it closer and I was like, oh, this is obviously the dark branded meme thing, which is, honestly, it was pretty funny. Like it was a good on him, but like also like the tinfoil hat on, you throw that on, you're like, oh, Larry Fink got to him and told him like, change your tune on this. Yeah. Like, but who really? It definitely was a relation. It's just fundraising and trying to be witty on this. But I mean, I also can't imagine that like whoever decided that didn't know like what most people associate those eyes with. Like, so like part of me is like 10% of me is like, maybe this means for the most part, I'm like, this is obviously just a reference to that. I mean, and based on what he said, he's like, I like my coffee dark and all those things. But yeah, it was very funny to see. When I saw it, I think everyone who saw it was like, wait a second, and then realized actually a lot of people apparently didn't realize what it was.
Yeah.
based on some interactions I had.
I still got hope.
Yeah. Hope is not a strategy, my friend. James, I want to get some insight from you. You know, a lot of people's perception on how things work is a lot different than how they actually work, right? Everyone's like, the halving's coming up. Oh my God, that means the supply goes down, the price should go up, but it does the opposite. Can you walk us through? Let's say a spot ETF for Bitcoin gets approved. What are the steps? When do they start buying these Bitcoins? How long does it take for it to go live? Like, can you walk us through that process?
So I don't know the exact steps, but it would be very quick. It would be a few days. They'd spin it up. They probably already have seed capital, which typically is like, some people are talking like, oh, well, they seed these funds with like $20 million. And if 9 of them are launching, no, some of these guys can seed this stuff with like just $1 million. So, I mean, it's not nothing, but like they'll just put Bitcoin in there up to like, could even be a couple $100,000. Like it doesn't have to be as much as people think it's going to be. So yeah, and essentially what happens is as people invest in those funds, it's going to be equivalent of buying Bitcoin itself, right? So like if you want to create shares in the ETF, the market makers or the authorized participants, they have to go out and get those underlying assets. In most cases, it's stocks or bonds. or and sometimes it's gold. In this case, it would be Bitcoin. So they get Bitcoin delivered to the ETF company, and they'd get back shares of the ETF, right? That's just how it works. So you need to deliver shares of Bitcoin to get shares of the ETF. Some of them theoretically could be cash settled in the sense where it would actually be the company that would be buying it. For the most part, these are almost certainly going to be in-kind transactions where you have to hand the Bitcoin back or hand the shares and take the Bitcoin out yourself, right? So that's how that would work. But the other side of this is like you got to realize once these are approved, all of a sudden GBTC gets opened up, and that is almost over 3% of the global Bitcoin supply.
Yep.
Right, it's trading at a discount. People don't want those shares. So what happens to all that Bitcoin? All of a sudden, it can be taken out and sold. So it's definitely not as clean cut as like, oh, this is automatically new demand in the space. There's a lot more nuance going on behind the scenes. It also depends, like, are those people that hold all the shares of GBTC, are they hedged? Are they going to have to unwind a hedge? Back in the day, everyone was hedged, but anecdotally, I'm hearing there's a lot of people just aren't hedged anymore because people who were hedged or leveraged in that trade, they all blew up over the last like 3 years.
That is such important insight, James, that you just gave. And guys, for you watching, this is why we bring people like James on the show.
Yeah, what happens to that grayscale trust?
I mean, the people don't think about that. I mean, it didn't really cross my mind. Everyone just assumes it gets approved, price go up. And that is precisely why I asked you that question.
Yeah, it's not as clear cut as most people think. And I'll say this: if you look at when Bitcoin and Ether futures launched, they both coincided with not good times, like right after. Then you look at Bitcoin futures; they launched at the end of October of 2021. And if you were in the space, you know what has happened since then when you were trading around 60+K. So it's not necessarily. It just makes it way easier for people to short in the space too. It's not just long. ETFs are trading tools. So I know some people hate shorting, but they really do make more efficient markets. So that is a distinct possibility here.
Fair enough. James, we have yet again kept you longer than we said we were going to have you on for. We really appreciate you coming on, my friend. Any parting thoughts you want to leave us with? And while you're doing that, I'm going to pull up your Twitter, and we're kind of going to put this on the page, Rocco, if you can. Any closing thoughts here before we let you go, my friend?
Yeah, I would just say the next dates for watching. I'm waiting for that court opinion. I'm in the next couple weeks. My guess, I literally wrote on my table that I've published and tweeted out is August 15th. It's just a complete guess, but we'll see. And then also the other dates. October 11th is the first date that any of those ETH futures ETFs could go live. So if we get a few weeks down the line, especially after the grayscale decision, if we don't see those Ethereum ETFs withdrawn, that is a very positive sign towards them being approved ultimately. So, and the last thing I would say, as I said, I think people are slightly overstating the demand for ETH futures ETFs and what it means for Ethereum. I think the bigger case here is this shows a shift in the SEC, right? It's the SEC changing a very hard line stance they had against anything Ethereum, potentially. And that means a lot more than anything it could mean for Ethereum itself, if that makes any sense. It's more about the policy shift as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. James, it is always a pleasure having you on, my friend. We definitely look forward to bringing you on again. Guys, do yourselves a favor. Go follow James on Twitter. All things ETF, updates, a lot of great content on there. We did put it in the chat and pinned it to the top, and there you have it. James, again, thank you. Anytime you're in Vegas, please, it would be our pleasure to have you come into the studio, hang out with us. And so thank you again, and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll use that as an excuse to get sent out there at some point, maybe.
It's business, man. Company write-off. Yeah. You know, Bloomberg's got the money, bro. All you got to do is ask.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one, guys.
Take care.
Right, thank you.
And that was good. I feel bad. You know, I tell him at 15, 20 minutes, I know he's busy, and then it gets such a good conversation. And so I got to send another apology email. Just to kind of, repackage this thing up, any takeaways from some of the insight James gave for us? The whole GBTC thing. Hey, once those gets unlocked, like you got people that came in and bought at the 45% discount. Are they gonna capitalize on those gains? Like, what are your just general thoughts in wrapping the ETF thing?
Okay, so before today's conversation,
I'm happy I asked for us, but go ahead, Robin.
Okay, yeah. Oh, my bad.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna jump on this one.
Giving you crap.
Right, so I always thought, like, hey, you buy it at a discount, right? And then when it converts over to spot Bitcoin, if it were to convert over to spot Bitcoin ETF, if you bought it at 45% discount, you would get a whole Bitcoin at that price. And is that not what's going to happen? Or are they just going to have to liquidate and they're giving you the dollar value? Like, I guess that's what he was saying. It's not clear cut and simple.
Right.
And so for me, I just thought like, hey, if they're going to pass the spot, then buy it now at discount, man. You're going to make out. But maybe that's not the case.
Yeah. Forrest, what are your thoughts?
My general belief is still that Bitcoin spot ETF, regardless of what happens with GBTC, I think that's, that ultimately leads to a resolution there, whether that resolution is super clear or not, or super clean cut or not. That ultimately, that getting resolved is removing one of the bigger issues within Bitcoin, within the entire crypto ecosystem right now. And that's, grayscale Bitcoin trading at a massive discount. I think that's kind of an overhead that needs to go away. But just the general idea of a Bitcoin spot ETF, in my opinion, is so astronomically bullish for the entire space. I believe it gives the infinite bid that the S&P 500 has been enjoying for so long to Bitcoin. There's a reason the S&P 500, if you zoom out to like the monthly chart or the weekly chart, it just goes up. Yeah, you've got some large drawdowns occasionally when unemployment rises and you get a recession. But in general, there's just a constant infinite bid from people allocating towards the S&P 500 through their 401k and retirement plans. You have that applied to Bitcoin. The immediate the immediate effect of that is so bullish because you have a situation where Bitcoin can see massive inflows over a long period of time that offset the supply coming in from miners. And essentially you get to a place where all of a sudden 6-figure Bitcoin doesn't seem crazy, right? Without a Bitcoin ETF, if you just want to go off the halving, I don't want to talk about 6-figure Bitcoin, but you have Bitcoin spot ETF approval. 6-figure Bitcoin is all of a sudden the narrative is there. The narrative is everything trades off of narrative, right? In order for anything to have value, and this, I'll try to wrap it up here. For the US dollar to have value, for art to have value, for your car to have value, anything, people have to believe it has value. You have to be able to sell it to somebody. So it's all just based off of narrative. The Bitcoin spot ETF approval and all the inflows that it'll bring in, I believe, is the narrative that pushes Bitcoin to 6 figures. I question whether or not Bitcoin can get to 6 figures without a narrative that's that strong. So, I'm more bearish than most people on crypto and Bitcoin in general if we don't get the Bitcoin approval. But if we do get it, I'm way more bullish than most people. I'm very polarized in this situation.
I think that what it does is the spot Bitcoin ETF, if it were to pass, what it does is it normalizes Bitcoin, right? For the people that are skeptical, 100%. For the people that have repeatedly heard over and over again, it's a scam. Oh, look at the price. I think the easiest rebuttal at this point would just be well, you can buy it on the stock exchange. You don't need custodial agent. You don't need a seed phrase. You want it, just go pick it up. Go buy it. Just as simple as buying any other stock out there. So I think it basically just affirms that, hey, it's no longer a scam. I know we don't think this, but a lot of other people do. And then just shout out to Crit Cats. He did give a $5 super chat asking about Caspa chart. We didn't get a chance to look that over, but I just wanted to give you a shout out. He also says happy Friday and smash the likes. So
Smash the likes. That's right. Guys, you should follow James. You should also follow Forrest. We have put that in there as well. 00 Forrest with 2 R's on Twitter. Forrest, before we let you go, anything you'd like to leave us with?
Now, as usual, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure. My favorite part of the week, favorite part of the day is coming on this show. Super bullish on Sin City Crypto moving forward. Otherwise, just go subscribe to this channel, drop a like, follow everybody here, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Forrest. We appreciate you, my friend. We appreciate your time, and we're going to let you go. And thank you again. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes.
Take care.
David.
Yes.
What are you doing this weekend?
What am I doing this weekend? I thought we were going to go watch that Richard Hart movie.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, let's go.
Are you buying or what?
I got I told you I went to the movie theater and they arrested somebody while I was there.
Wait, what?
in the theater. Yeah, I was
For
watching.
what?
I don't know. They didn't tell
Is
me.
there a story
They didn't
time?
tell me.
They were in the back row,
You
okay?
don't know.
They were in the very top row.
Oh, got it.
And
got
two
it.
people got escorted out. So, I mean, you can use your imagination.
Yes.
You know, sometimes.
One time I went and watched the movie Moneyball, and I didn't watch the movie Moneyball.
But anyways, before I left, they gave me 2 free tickets. So I might use them to go watch.
You taking me? Is that you
Let's
taking me on a date, bro?
go.
Okay.
All right.
Guys, big thank you to James. Big thank you to Forrest. We will continue to bring you high-profile people that have great knowledge to give you that knowledge to you, our community, because we love you guys. If you want to support the channel, there's plenty of ways of doing so. Speaking of supporting the channel, one more shout out to channel sponsor Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you want to learn how they can help your business, visit bluewiretech.com or click the link in the description of this video. Go check out our website. It's finally live, sincitycrypto.io. It's got all the information you can need on there, and we want your opinion. We want your feedback. Let us know what you think. Also, go follow us on Twitter at SinCityCrypto1. We are the most active there. Also, join our community ran Discord, which, by the way, big shout out to the mods in there. Redman, Biomex, Billy especially as well. You guys are amazing. To all of you that are consistently having great conversations in there, thank you very much. Also, go check out our merch store at inandoutcrypto.com, where you'll not only find Sin City merch, but also crypto merch as well. And also,
I like that hat. Marco.
also, he's not on camera, but big shout out to Neil. He's really been helping us tune in our audio, one of our audio engineers. So, Neil, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And we appreciate all of you as well. And I would like you to appreciate my patented move. Rocco?
No, there is a problem with the camera.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry,
it's-
doesn't
Rocco.
work. Doesn't work.
Wow. That's
Guys,
Gee,
what an
do it.
amazing
2
week.
fingers, huh?
What
Wow.
an amazing week. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have an even more amazing weekend.
Which is worse?
We got Gareth Soloway coming
His
Monday.
Finger,
Come back Monday.
Finger tornado or
Outro.
Sharknado? Sharknado or finger tornado? They're both pretty bad. I'm just saying.
Love you guys. Have a good weekend.
They're bad, they're bad.
Big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I split the game, but they gave it. Name the coin that's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy a dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.